just over a month before they take over. They have to figure out how, or even if, this current version of the Republican Party can find united leadership with a narrow vote and a rebellious MAGA cadre of newer members. Indeed, some of those people, the younger members who are already in Congress or joining, are already threatening to block the speaker bid of the current leader, Kevin McCarthy, who's still the odds-on favorite to become speaker. Now, the numbers are not yet dire for him. I'll walk you through exactly what we know. In public, right now, about 5 Republican lawmakers, 5, have announced their opposition. So the real question is whether they could build the momentum that might actually throw the whole speaker's race in doubt. Now, this is Washington. I said momentum, and in normal human affairs, sports, real life, momentum is something that happens, right? In Washington, it's not always a natural dynamic, but part of political choreography to create the appearance of momentum. I say that as part of the top story because some of the people involved in this bid on the right to stop McCarthy or complicate his life for concessions admit they are basically trying to telegraph, or fake, if you want to call it that, the timeline of the momentum to stop McCarthy. So the idea right now is to drip out a name of someone in the Republican caucus who will stop him and join this effort, drip out a name every 4 or 5 days to make sure people know McCarthy can be stopped, according to Republican lawmakers who spoke on Background to CNN. Democrats say this is already the first test of the would-be speaker's leadership, and he's failing. They say he's pandering to MAGA, letting the most extreme members run wild with any conspiracy theory investigation or impeachment in exchange for their vote. Note the casual reference to impeachment there because Republicans have been so casual about it. Biden brought it up as well. You can tell that Democrats don't see the I word as something to be afraid of, but rather something to throw out there first. If the Republican Party, before even getting power and getting the gavel, is pledging, vowing among some members to impeach Biden for literally anything, which, depending on who you ask, is potentially a violation of your constitutional duty, although the final call on that's up to the House member and how they vote. If that's just going to be bandied about, then Democrats are the ones saying, look, McCarthy can't even stand up to these folks, and he doesn't even have the gavel yet. Now, a final bit of context before I bring in our guests, including former Republican Chairman Michael Steele. Kevin McCarthy actually got here by both maneuvering and sometimes picking times to bow out, to surrender partially to his party's base. You know what Bob Marley said. He who fight and run away live to fight another day. And that's a nonpartisan piece of battle wisdom because sometimes you do take a loss to come and run again. And that's what McCarthy did. In fact, I want to show you this for context because he dropped a past bid in 2015 when he saw far-right opposition that he just could not maneuver around.
Another shocker in Capitol Hill. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy dropped out of the race for Speaker of the House.
For us to unite, we probably need a fresh face.
And obviously, right now, the GOP is in shambles.
The decision left everyone at a loss for words, especially him.
I think we're only going to be stronger. We fought hard to win this majority and turn this country around. And this will be our best footstep for... Yeah, I messed up.
Don't leave!
That was the Colbert take at the time. You saw McCarthy seemed or projected a kind of calm about it. And that's the thing when we follow politics. One of the great mistakes is that people confuse tactics with ethics. They think that the people they don't like must also be always incompetent. Would that were the case if someone that you oppose in politics for good reasons were always as incompetent as perhaps their ideas are poor. But that's not the real world. Kevin McCarthy, for all of his many demonstrable flaws and flip-flops, and I say that as an objective matter, this was someone who stood on the floor of the House and said Donald Trump must be held responsible for January 6th, and then went out to Mar-a-Lago and ate up his own words. This is someone who has issues with his own consistency, but he has found in the past that he knows when to duck, when to run, and then when to run for Speaker. With all that in mind and a lot of the fate of the Biden agenda and thus American policy in the balance tonight, I want to bring in former RNC Chair Michael Steele and National Affairs Correspondent for The Nation, Joan Walsh. Welcome back to both of you. Happy holidays if you had a good week. Michael, I begin with that point that sounds straightforward. The tactics and the ethics are different. McCarthy gets criticized and bumped for many different reasons. But in the past, he's found his way back. What do you see now with a even more sort of calcified, angry backbone of MAGA loyalists in this vote?
Found his way back to what? He's still not Speaker of the House. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, majority leader is nice. I mean, rather, minority leader is nice. But the reality for Kevin has been for some time now that he wants to be Speaker of the House. And there's a reason why. It's not just conservative members. I mean, a lot of people like to put the onus on the Tea Party at the time and now the Freedom Caucus, but it's not just them. There are other members as well. Kevin was good for raising money, but they don't see him necessarily as their leader. They don't see him as someone who can effectively engage against a crafty, wily Democratic leadership, such as it was under Nancy Pelosi. Now, the dynamics may change since Nancy will no longer be Speaker, but be careful that figure you see in the dark of night. It could be just as scary in the leadership that you see emerging among the Democrats now to follow Nancy. And they are as well seasoned.
Let me push you on how that's going to work and then bring Joan in. You may remember back just post 9/11, there was a lot of talk of why do they hate us? What do they want abroad? I know that some of the Republican leaders that used to be in a simpler time, Michael, maybe you didn't agree with them on everyone, but they used to be your contemporaries, people you could reason with. And those elite Republicans used to say, why do they hate us? What do they want? Whether it's Tea Party, MAGA, or this more extreme QAnon faction, what do they want from Kevin McCarthy other than to disrupt his political life? Michael.
I don't think it's so much what they want from Kevin McCarthy at this stage. It's what they wanted from the party going back to when I became chairman in 2009. People need to contextualize and understand the Tea Party process began long before 2009. It reaches back to when Newt Gingrich came to the Congress in the late 1980s and began to foment a rebellion, if you will, to use that term, against the structure that had been put in place under 40 years of Democrat control of the House between 1954 and 1994. So in the late 80s, that pressure began to build up in a way that manifests itself very differently today, but led to the takeover of the House in 94. So this has been a long-serving battle among a lot of Republicans who felt that the establishment, the order of things, the party leadership, the RNC, the senatorial committee, the congressional committees never took into account how frustrated the rank and file were about big government spending under Bush, the lack of adherence to the social norms as they saw them at the time. So there is that buildup that manifests ultimately in 2009 and is now metastasized into this thing of white nationalism, grievance, racism, et cetera.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6 on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.